Today we are going to work through the review quiz for DMA20. Our first question that we have, it's a multiplication and it's a problem where we are going to round the factors, okay? So we have 9.3 times 3.1. So this would be 9 3/10 times 3 1/10. And I'm going to show you, as we go through the quiz, I'm going to show you the calculator steps as you go through each of these. So you're going to have 9 3/10 times 3 1/10, and that's going to give you 28 83/100. This would be, for this particular problem, the second part of the question is to round the factors to the nearest whole number and estimate to see if the answer is reasonable. The common mistake made here is that oftentimes people will round the final answer. That is not what the question is asking. It says to round numbers. It does not say round the answer. The two numbers we were multiplying are our factors. 9 3/10 would round to 9. 3/10 would round to 3. And 9 times 3 would give us 27. This would be rounding the factors, and this would be the estimated answer. So don't make that mistake. The common mistake is people round the answer, the exact answer. They do not read carefully when it says to round the factors first. Next, we have an order of operations. We have 4 squared divided by 4 minus 1/3. I would do this problem using both the calculator and simplifying as we go. I would do a combination of the two. So first we have 4 over 1 squared. That actually means 4 squared. 4 over 1 is 4. But you can still type it in here as 4 over 1. That is going to be squared. Then we have divided by, and then we have a parenthesis, and we have 4 over 1 minus 1/3. Hang on. One more time. And remember on that very last term to be sure you move out from under the denominator before you close your parentheses. And that's going to give us 48/11. If you're doing this longhand, the 4 squared would be 16, and 16 would be divided by, and then you could do 4 minus 1/3. Convert by doing math, enter, convert that back to a fraction. And we get 11/3. So we have 16 divided by 11 thirds. So 16 divided by 11 thirds. And then math, enter twice. That would then go back to the same answer of 48 over 11. So you can key it in the entirety as one at once using all of the alpha y equals to, or you can simplify each part. This gives us 16. This simplified is 11. And then when you do the division, you would have, in other words, 16 over 1 times, write the reciprocal, and that gives you 16 times 3 is 48, 1 times 11 is 11. So you may go either way with that longhand or using your calculator. Next, we have a radio disc jockey wants to choose among compact disc tracks that last, and there's a series of values. Can he select tracks so as to get between 10 and 1/10 and 10 and 3/10 minutes of music? This is the radio disc jockey question. For this, your answer is always going to be yes, okay? And then what you want to do is to test each solution. Looking for, in this problem, 10.13 as being the length of the music. We have 4 options, A, B, C, and D. A, B, C, and D. So what I would do, your first one, and this one has, for A, you're looking at selecting 3.7, 2.8, 2.9, and 2.6. You're going to add all 4 of these values, and when you add those together, you're going to add, and when you do, you get a sum of 12. So that's not in the range that we need. We're going to look at B. We're going to add 3.7 and 2.9 and 1.9. That's going to give us 8.5. We add them and we get a sum of 8.5. That's not in the range. We try the third one, a 2.9, a 2.6, and a 1.9. When we add those together, we add and we get a 10 and 2/10. This choice here would be none. So since we're looking for, this is our range, A is not in the range, B is not in the range, C is not applicable because we did have a correct answer. So you're always going to have a yes solution, and then you want to test each of your scenarios to get the right solution. Each second, a star converts 3 1/10 times 10 to the 8th, 3 1/10, that many tons of hydrogen into helium and energy in the form of gamma rays. Write this number in standard notation. So to write this in standard notation, our 1, and be sure you remember that since it's positive, you're going to move the decimal to the right, and you're going to move it right 8 places. Where you begin is where the decimal is originally located. It does not mean add 8 zeros. It means start here, and we're going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places. That means that took one of the places. Hang on one more time. I hit something and it started. There we go. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 1 took one place, and we're going to add in 7 additional zeros. And that gets us to the 8 places total for our standard notation. How many 2/5 cup sugar bowls can be filled from 4 cups of sugar? So we have 4 cups of sugar, and we have a 2/5 cup bowl. We want to know how many bowls do we need for that 4 cups. Divided by each cup is 2/5, how much it'll hold. So 4/1 would be times reciprocal, which is 5/2. 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 2 is 2. Simplify, we would need a total of bowls. Or you may simply do 4 divided by 2/5. And when you key it in the original form to get your 10 bowls. Write the following number in scientific notation. If I want to write this in scientific notation, my first value, the number needs to be single digit, 9. Then we would have times 10, and we're going to have to come up with our exponent. So the decimal is here. If we moved it to this location, to get to the original location, we would go left 1, 2, 3 places. We would move 3 places. That means our exponent is going to be a -3. So 7 93/100 times 10 to the -3rd. One year, farmers receive an average of 12 and 98.5 cents per bushel of wheat. That's how much we get per bushel. How much did a farmer receive for selling 100 bushels of wheat? This is how, and we sold. So to get our solution, 100. Now, when we are dealing with money, we have 1,298 and 5/10, 1,298 and then 5/10. But since we're dealing with money, money always goes 2 decimal places. So it wouldn't just be 5, it would actually be 50 cents. So you'd want to add a 0 onto the end of your answer. Draw and shade a part of a diagram to represent the fraction. So our fraction here is 2/7. So my fraction is 2/7. And if I were going to, I would divide it so I would have 7 pieces here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we would make sure we have 7 pieces. That's the denominator. If we need 2 to be shaded, find one that has 2 of the 7. So in this particular scenario, this has 3, that has 1, this has 5. A would be the one that has the 2. Okay. Find the area of the geometric figure. Give an exact area and then use 22/7 as an approximation for pi to approximate the area. So we have a circle. The circle has a radius of 11, and we need to find two things. Well, first let's start with area, our formula. Our formula for area is pi times radius squared. You will not be given the formula. You will have to remember that. And we want to use 22/7 for pi when we do the approximation. So first, to find the exact answer would be pi times 11 squared. 11 squared is going to give us 121. So that would give us 121, and then we literally use the pi symbol. For the approximation, we are going to do the 121, and we're going to substitute the fraction 22/7. So 121 times 22/7. Now, let's look at the format they want our answer in. The first one was in terms of pi. The second one said type an integer, a fraction, or a mixed number. Integer means whole number, or just fraction means proper fraction, or mixed number. So we're going to need to take this value and we're going to need to write that in the form of a mixed number. So we have 26620, and we are going to do alpha equals, you choose number 3 to convert to a mixed number, and that will give you 380 and 2/7. 380 and 2/7, because we want the answer written in this format. Okay? So memorize your formula and then give the answers both exact and the approximate. Always read what's in your parentheses. Write the expression with only positive exponents. Assume all variables represent non-zero numbers. So we have 9x, and the x is to the -2nd. The way that what we do is if we have a value with a negative, in order to get rid of the negative exponent, it drops to the denominator, which means there would still need to be something in the numerator. So to get rid of the negative, it's going to go to the bottom, to the denominator, and be squared. So for this particular problem, what we are going to end up having is 9, and then the x to the -2 is going to drop down to the denominator. And that's going to be what we're looking for here. So here it would be D, 9 over the x squared. Given the replacement values, evaluate multiplication and the division of these. Okay, so let's write these down first. So x equals a -7/3, and y is equal to 11/14. We have two problems here. One is to do x times y, and the other is x divided y. So A is x times y, B is x divided by y. So that means we would have a -7/3 times 11/14. You can do this on your calculator, or I'm going to do this one longhand. If I'm doing this longhand, I can see that the 7 and the 14 can reduce. 7 goes into 7 once and twice. A negative times a positive gives me a negative answer. 1 times 11 is 11, and 3 times 2 would give me 6. So my solution for the first one is a -11/6. When I do the division, what I have is -7/3 divided by, and when I do division, we never really divide. What we do is we multiply by the reciprocal. Now, in this scenario, I do not have any numerator or denominator that cancels. Negative times positive is negative. 3 times 11 is 33. Our 7 times 14 gives us 98. So we have a -98/33. And then let's just double check and see if that can reduce. And it does not reduce any further. So that would be our final solution there, -98/33. And these both say integer or fraction. So if it does not specify mixed number, you leave it as an improper fraction. As part of a 3-day workout plan to prepare for a triathlon, an athlete ran 7 1/12 miles Monday, 10 1/7 miles Tuesday, and 14 1/21 miles Wednesday. How many miles did the athlete run in the 3-day period? Type a mixed number and be sure your answer is simplified. So if the person's running a triathlon for 3 days, what we're going to have is we're going to have an addition problem for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So let's look back at those values. We have 7 1/12 plus we had 10 1/7 and 14 1/21. Usually the common mistake that I have with this problem for students is that the last term or the first term, they accidentally type one of them as a half instead of the 21 or the 12. I recommend we're going to use our calculator to do this. So we do alpha y equals number 2. The first day was 7 1/12. 7 1/12. Come out from under the denominator plus alpha y equals number 2. And we have 10 1/7. 10 1/7. And then last, we have 14 1/21. Once you've keyed it in, look at this, go back and look at the problem to be sure you typed it in correctly. And then once we press enter, it initially gives us our solution as an improper fraction. So then we do alpha y equals, we choose number 3 to convert to the mixed number. So we have 31 and 23/84. 31 and 23/84. Okay. Find the circumference of the circle in terms of pi, then use the approximation 3.14 for pi and approximate the circumference. Okay, so let's have our circle here. Our circle has a radius of 1.6. We need to use the circumference, so that would either be pi times diameter or 2 times pi times radius. And we are going to use 3.14 for pi when we do the approximation. We're going to solve this 2 ways. We're first going to give the exact answer. The exact answer is going to be 2 times pi times 1 1/16. Because we were given the radius, it has to be doubled to give us the diameter. So 2 times 1.6 is going to give us 3.2. So my exact answer is going to be 3.2. When we do the approximations, and we're going to multiply that by, they want us to substitute 3.14. So we're going to multiply that times our approximation for pi, and that's going to give us 10.048. Now, be careful of, let's look back at the original problem. When we do approximation, it says down to the nearest thousandth. So when I look back here, tenths, hundredths, thousands, it goes to the thousandth, so there is nothing to round. We give all three of those digits, okay? And for this problem, our are yards. So it would just be yards. It's square units for area. It's just the unit alone when you're doing circumference. Find the height of the tree shown to the right. So we have 35 feet and 22 feet. We have 35 feet here, 22 feet here, and we're trying to figure this value out. If you notice, they draw a right triangle. That lets us know we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. And this was a tree that they had drawn. So our A and our B are the two legs that make the 90 degrees. Our C is our diagonal. Plus squared equals 35 squared. Okay, so let's use our calculator to assist us. We've got 22, we're going to square it. And we're also going to need to square our 35. So our 22 squared is 484. Our 35 squared is 1,225. In order to solve this, we're going to subtract 484 to cancel it on the left and to move it to the right side of the equation. So now we have b squared equals, we're going to subtract 4, and that will give us 741. To get our solution for the height of the tree, we're going to have to take the square root of, and let's look here. It says for us to round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to do the second square root, 1, and we have 27.2213. So 27.2213. If they're asking us to round to the tenths place, we underline the digit in the tenths place. Look at the number beside of it, and in this case, the 2 makes the 2 and the tenths stay the same. So that will be 27 and 2/10 for your solution. Find the perimeter of the figure to the right. Okay, so we have a 4, we have a 3 and a 5, and we have 6 and 7/8. If we're finding the perimeter, this is one of those formulas you need to know, but it's simply to add all of the sides. So we're going to add 3 plus 6 and 7/8 plus 5 plus 7 1/3. Also, it says type it as an integer, proper or mixed number. So this one obviously is going to become a mixed number. Okay, so we have our 3. Alpha y equals, choose number 2. We're going to add to it 6 and 7/8. We're also going to add to it the whole number 5. And then we're going to add to it our 7 1/3. We get our improper fraction of 5/33/24. And then we're going to convert by doing alpha y equals, choose number 3. Alpha y equals, choose number 3. And that gives us 22 5/24. 22 5/24. Because you always look to see what form, not give the format that's asked, it would be marked incorrect. I recommend on your paper when you're showing your work, please give both answers, give all the digits when you're doing a rounding. That way I can see if you had the correct work and if there was an error with converting from one form to the other, and see if there is the possibility of any partial on some of the problems. This one we're doing an addition. So we have 100 6 thousandths, 100 6 thousandths. We're going to add to it 8 300ths. Now remember, line up your decimals, 8 300ths. And then last is 9 13 thousandths. So a problem such as this, when it's an addition, you're going to line up everything. Here, I'm going to come in and add a 0 to hold that place. 6 and 3 is 9. 3 and 1 is 4. 0. 9 and 8 is 17. 0 and 1 is 1. So we end up with 117 49 thousandths. With addition, line up your decimals. And then you can check those also on the calculator. During the 21st century, the first 3 total eclipses of the sun visible from the Atlantic Ocean are listed. The duration of each eclipse is included in the table on the right. What is the total duration for the March eclipse and the June eclipse? That's the thing to notice on this problem. The common error is that somebody will see this and just add all 3. Don't do that. They're only having you add 2. Do not assume because the problem we're doing now says March and June that those are the ones to choose. Read your question, because for every problem you do, they're going to change which month and the amounts. So if we're adding these first 2 for March and June, we have 3 and 11/25. And we also have 2 and 300. So we had June and we had, so make sure you're adding the correct 2. And calculator on this, okay? So we have 3 and 11/25 plus 2 and 300. And now we want to convert this back to a mixed number. So we had 547/100. And here, alpha y equals number 3. Press enter. Alpha y equals number 3. Enter. And that gives us 5 47/100. And it does say give that answer as a mixed number. Robert is 66.5 inches tall. His brother Howard is 70 3/4 inches tall. How many inches taller is Howard than Robert? So when we do this subtraction, the taller person is going to be listed first. So we have 70 3/4 minus 66 1/2. So make sure that is first, that is second. Now, if we're doing this longhand, we can't subtract a half from 3/4. So I can leave the 3/4 as it is because the common denominator would be a 4. 2 times 2 would give me 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So this fraction here would change to be 2/4. Now when I subtract, I can subtract 2/4 from 3/4. That leaves me with 1/4. And then 66 from 10 would be 4 1/4. You could also just key it in on the calculator doing the 70 3/4 minus 66.5. But if you're doing it longhand, you have to remember to make them both have the same denominator before you do the subtraction. Perform the indicated operation. So we have negative 109 6/10 minus 77 6/200. Okay, so we're just going to use our calculator. So we have negative 109 6/10 minus 77. That gives us a negative 187, negative 187 22/100. So just utilize your calculator. Notice when I type the first one in here for the negative 109, I use the negative sign, not the minus. Okay. A special on a cruise to the North Pole is advertised as being 3/4 of the regular price. So the cruise is 3/4 the regular price. And the regular price was $2,290. So this is a problem, and we need to figure out what operation are we going to use. Pay attention. If you remember, the word of means we're going to multiply. Like when we looked in dma10, even at problem solving, the word of means you're going to do a multiplication. So if it's 3/4 of the regular price, we are going to multiply 3/4 times the 22.96. So the sale price is going to be less than that amount. So it's $1,722. Write the decimal 264, decimal 2 zeros and a 2. So 264.002. We want to write this in words. So remember, what we're going to read the left side as if it's a whole number. So that would be 264. Okay, 264. Then we use the word and for the decimal. We read that as a whole number, just 2, and then count the place value, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So it will be, and remember at the end of thousand, okay? The and is the decimal point, 264 and 2 thousandths. You will come back here, use the process of elimination. 2 of these do not have the correct place value. Oh, wait a minute. Only one of them has thousands. Yeah, the very first one is the only one that has thousands. So in this case, we eliminated it down to the correct answer on the first try. But if you had multiples, look for things like them using the word point rather than and, things of that nature. Okay, we're now 2/3 of the way through with these. Graph the list of numbers on a number line. So when you're doing this problem, this is what I recommend that you do. Let me make a list of these. We have 2, a half, -1. We have 2, a half, -1. -4 3/7, and we had 3 1/2. When you're graphing this, the hint is the whole first. Okay? So when I look back at this problem, my whole numbers are +2 and a -1. So get choice A, I have a +2, -1. This might be my right answer. Let's look at B. B has a 2, but it does not have a -1. We can eliminate. C has a +2, but it does not have the -1. I can eliminate C. D does not have the 2. It does have the -1. So I can eliminate these 3. For this one, with the 2 and the -1, I would just check the others. A half is between 0 and 1. My -4 3/7 is between -4 and -5. There it is. And then my 3 1/2 is halfway between 3 and 4. So process of elimination is I personally check my whole numbers first, and then I verify my mixed numbers. So find the whole numbers first, and once you've done that, verify your, that's the most logical way to go about doing this one. Okay, next we have we're going to add and simplify. We have 1/4, 3/16, and 1/64. To do this longhand, you would find the least common denominator, and we would end up with, I believe, a 64 for those. But you may also do this using your calculator. And if we do that, we're going to have 1/4 and 3/16 first. So 1/4 plus 3/16. Well, wait a minute. Did you notice I accidentally was not out from under the radicals? Let me go back and get rid of that. Move the right arrow. There we go. Plus alpha y equals. And our last numeral is 1/64. And that would give us 29/64. If we did this longhand, we would take each of these, and we would need to create the first two. We would take the 1/4, figure out what do you multiply to get 64 as a denominator, and you would take the 3/16 and figure out what do you multiply to get 64 as the denominator. Okay, so if you do 64 divided by 4, you'd have to multiply by 16. So if you do 4 times 16, 1 times 16 is 16. So this would be 16 64s. Here, 16 times 4 is 64, and 3 times 4 would give us 12. The last one we would not have to change. So 16 and 12 is 28. 28 and 1 is our 29/64. Divide negative 49 4/10. We're going to divide that by negative 5 2/10. We have a negative number divided by another negative number. So negative 49.4 divided by negative 5.2. That gives us 9.5. If we were doing this longhand, we'd have negative 5.2 to negative 49 4/10. Remember, when we're doing this longhand, we want these to be whole numbers, so we would have to move our decimal one place to the right. Okay? So then when I take 52, it does not go into 49, but it goes into 494 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 5 is 45, plus 1 is 46. Then we subtract. And that leaves us with 20. Up here, we need to add a 0, bring that down. And then 52 into 260 would go 5 times. And 5 times 2 is 10. And 25 and 1 is 26. And then it subtracts out to 0. So you can go either route. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Negative 5 2/9. Negative 5 2/9 divided by negative 100. Let's just keep this simple and let's just use our calculator to do this. Okay? So we have a negative sign first. And we have our 5 2/9. That's going to be divided by a negative 100. Whoop. 100. And our answer, this is already reduced to lowest terms, so we would have 47 over 900. (47 over 900). Negative divided by negative is a positive. Okay, simplify, order of operation. So we have 31.3 plus 6.9 times 9.6. If you're doing this long, the division, the multiplication that we have here first, and then we would add the 31.3. So we have 31 30 3/10 plus 6.9 times 9.6. The calculator itself knows what to do first. It does the multiplication, then adds the 31.3, and we get 97 and 54 hundredths. Write the fraction as a decimal. We have 3/11. What we're going to do is divide 11 into 3. The decimal goes here, but it goes into 30 2 times. 2 times 11 is 22. When we subtract, we got 8 left over. Got a 0, bring it down. 11 goes into 8 times. 7 times 11, 77. Add a 0, bring it down. 11 goes into 30 2 times. We got 22. Subtract, add a 0, bring it down. 11 goes into 80. Subtract 77. We got a 3. So as you can see, we've got a pattern here. This is going to continue on and on and on. So our solution, the numbers that are repeating is the 27. So we would do a decimal with the 27, and then we put a line over the 27. Using the calculator, 3 to 7, you're going to see that it's repeating, and it continues repeating the 27. Find the prime factorization of the following number. 150. We're going to do the prime factorization. So let's think of our first few prime numbers, 2, 3, 7, 13. Okay, we would start with, I start with the 2. 2 goes into 150 evenly 75 times. So on the calculator, start with the 150, divide it by a number, which was 2, and that's where we get our 75. Okay? Now, does 2 go evenly into 75? If you're not sure, you just divide it and see. It's not even, so it does not. So then, since it does not, we can mark out the 2, and let's try the next number. So 75 divided by 3 goes evenly 25 times. It's like 3/4. Does 3 go into 25? No, not evenly, but 5 does. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 goes into 5 once. When you get to the 1, that's when you stop. Your final answer is going to be 2 times 3 times 5 times 5. These numbers that are in the left column, that is your prime factorization. Subtract and simplify. So negative 7 over 33 minus a negative 6. Okay, 2 ways to do this. I'm going to do it longhand first. So when we have subtraction, we can rewrite subtraction as addition. So we would add, the opposite would be positive 6 over 33. And then since the denominators are the same, we have different signs. We find the difference. The difference is 1, and the absolute value for this value is larger. So it will be a negative 1 over 33. Or you may use your calculator, and you're going to have negative 7 over 33 come out from under the radical, minus, and then down here do the negative, alpha y equals, and then we have our 6 over 33. And when we check our solution, it is the negative 1 over 33. Write the fraction as an equivalent fraction with the given denominator. So 3 over 4 equals blank over 64. Now remember, I told you when a problem such as this is like a proportion, we can cross multiply and then divide. So that means we're going to type in 4 to get our answer. 3 times 64 divided by 4, and our solution is 48. So the value that goes to 48. Company A operates stores under multiple banners in 28 states in the U.S. The first question is, how many states do not have a store operated by Company A? Okay, they don't tell us, but how many states are there in the U.S.? There are, for A, there are 50 states, subtract the 28. So our 50 states minus the 28 tells us how many are not operated, so 22 stores. For B, they're asking us what fraction of the states We want to know the fraction of states that do not have a store, and it says to simplify the answer. So we're looking at 22 over 50. Both of these are even. We can divide them in half, and that would give us 11 over 25. And that would be the reduced fraction that we would give. Don't give the 22/50ths. It'll mark that as wrong. You have to still reduce that. If you're doing your calculator and typed in 22 divided by 50, you can just press math and enter 2 times, and it will simplify that fraction for you to a fraction in lowest terms, 11 over 25. Two more to go. During a 24-hour endurance auto race, the winning team drove 3,458 and 4/10 miles in 24 hours. What was their average speed in miles per hour? Okay, so we are going to do miles per hour. Per means we're going to divide. The number of miles is 3458.4. The hours were 24 hours. 58 and 4/10 divided by 4 hours gives us 144 and 1/10. And that would be miles per hour. And then last but not least, we have 114 thousandths times 7/10. You could do this longhand or calculator, either way. If you're doing this, and let's just review, if you're doing the decimals when we do multiplication, we just simply put the largest digits on top, the smaller digits on bottom. So 7 times 4 is 28, 79, 7 and 1 gives me 7. So when I'm looking to put my decimal in the answer, I count in the original. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 digits on the right. So that means here, when I go to put my decimal in the answer, I move left 1, 2, 3, 4 digits. Now, when I move it that many places, I have a space with nothing. Whoop. That means I'm going to have to add in a 0 to fill in that particular place. Or you can simply come here and we will do our times our 7. Oh, wait a minute, excuse me. I put my decimal in the wrong place. 0.114 times 0.7. It was a 0.7. And there it is, our decimal, 798 10,000ths. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will stop